What's up guys, Toby here with Gacha Gamer. Today I will try to attempt to explain to you how to actually play Zenonzard. So to put it simply, the game has 4 phases and you will most likely only notice 2 of them. So the first phase is usually refreshing everything. Since I don't have anything on the field right now, no mana, no units, the game usually just jumps to the second phase, which is called mana phase. And in mana phase you can do 2 things. One of them could be using what's known as a base monster or a base unit, and this unit goes directly to your mana. This base monster right here, I cannot use it. I cannot summon it because it can only play during the mana phase. Or you could just press the blinking yellow mana button and gain the neutral mana. So the difference between the neutral mana and the mana you get from a monster is that the monster who is being put into the mana is going to count as the mana of the color that it's going to grant. For example, if I click on this monster right here, it says it's going to grant me red mana, and you can see it between the middle of the description of basic rarity and the BP that he's dealing. So if I put it here, it's going to straight to the mana pool here. Now I have 1 mana. So in this case I have absolutely nothing else to do, and I'm going to just press and turn. And usually the AI will kind of tell you the right choices you can do, but I've noticed that for now you can't really trust it that much, and instead usually just play the game as usual, learn it on your own. So what is the objective of this game? There are 2 ways how you can beat the game. One of them being that you can reduce the opponent's life to 0, which is the middle part here, or you can wait until the opponent's deck runs out of cards, which usually you start the game with 40 cards. If the opponent is unable to draw a card, they automatically lose the game. So for the next part, as you just noticed, the game immediately skipped to the main phase, and I'll get to that in a moment. And as you can see, I gained a neutral mana right here. So this means if I don't have a base monster in my hand, I can't really do anything else, and I just automatically gain a mana point. Much of like in games like Hearthstone and so on. So this next part comes for us to examine the monsters themselves, or units. So for example, this minion right here, he has a cost of 2, and the lower part of the number 2 goes to show like what type of colors he requires. So if it's red and a black circle, this means he needs one of the colors to be red when you're paying for it, and the other color has to be of any color, so it doesn't really matter what you're paying for. So if I'm using this drill golem, I'm able to place it on a battlefield immediately. So there are 2 things. There's the field, and then there's the base. A base monster, which you saw at the first turn, you can only place it directly into the base. You cannot place it onto the field. But now, for example, I can do actually 2 things. 1, I can move the monster I just summoned back into the mana pool. This would mean I would get immediately another mana point right now. Another trick to it is that you can actually move the base monster you move into the mana pool and move it into the battlefield. So I'll show you as an example. I'm going to move the dwarf right here. And now I have a base monster. So the monsters that are in the mana pool, if you use them as mana and you move them again into the field, they will not be able to attack or do anything because they've been exhausted as mana point. Or when you're attacking and then moving the monster back to the base, they will be exhausted, or what's known as rested, and they will not be able to do anything. Okay, so once I have 2 monsters on the field, now I can attack with one of them the life force, or I can attack the opponent directly. But the trick to it is that the game immediately tells you that if you summon something on the same turn, they're only able to attack either one of the 2 forces. So if you take a look at the forces, they actually do some sort of things. You might have noticed when you were playing the game. So for example, this force here, Minotaur, DP damage dealt to your life by minions is reduced by 1. So if I'm not mistaken, that would mean that if I would attack with him directly, he would only inflict 0 damage because 1 minus 1 is equal 0. The other life force here, it says Cyclops. All your minions gain plus 100 BP for the duration of your turn. Okay, so if I would be evaluating which one to attack first, obviously I can see that it only takes me 2 points to remove the force of the Cyclops completely, so in this case I would just select this one to attack first. Now this is not a guide about strategy, it's more about just explaining the basic rules. So the other thing you need to notice is that once you use your minion, they go into gray mode, which is called a rest mode. This means that when the opponent attacks you, you're only able to block if your minion is active. If they're resting, they're just basically left there to wait until the whole phase plays out. Okay, so now we have even more choices. I think this is the part where you can learn the most about the game. You could probably see that the AI is suggesting for me to move the dwarf or the base minion I had back to the mana pool, and that would be great. That would mean I would be getting an extra mana point, but if I look at my hand, I can see that I only have things that cost from 2 to 1, and anything else is like very expensive. And just a quick notice, I am playing with a pre-constructed deck for the red neutral color, and it's not a very good deck. I haven't been able to win with it even once because it's just poorly optimized and it doesn't really do much, and the cards you draw are usually very bad. So don't really feel bad about yourself if you're losing games. We'll cover deck building in our next video. For now, let's just focus on the rules. So the whole idea about the main phase is that you can actually mix your action. So you can attack once with a minion, then move one minion back into the mana pool, then summon something, then attack again, then maybe summon something again. I think this is where the game shines the most because you get to take a lot of actions, and that's pretty exciting in my opinion. As an example, let's say I want to attack with a dwarf minion here and finally take care of that life force the opponent has. Now as you can see, you're able to move your minion back to the mana pool. Each time you start a main phase, you are given 1 point of movement. So movement can be either moving a monster from the field to the base or moving a monster from the base to the field. So as an example, I just attacked with the dwarf minion and I'm even able to move him back to the mana pool. And the trick to this is that you can actually use those minions later in your next turn as a movement point, and you lose the mana point, but you actually are able to use the minion in your field. You might have noticed that the drill golem requires a red and a neutral mana color, but I only have neutral colors, and that is because I have a forest power which says during your turn you can use neutral mana as mana of any color to summon field minions. So now I'm basically able to summon this golem just because I have the forest here. So here's the thing, if you have a spell card that says flash, you're able to use it before a blocker is assigned to your minion. If you see a spell card that says only the word main, basically means you cannot play it as a flash card. You can only play it during the main phase of your own turn, not the opponent's, just your own turn. So now you can see that the opponent is attacking my life force directly, and there is a flashing card in my hand which says select one of your opponent's minions to lose 300 BP during the duration of this turn. For me, this is not an optimal card to play because I have no monsters that are able to block right now. What happens is opponent's minion selects or you select the target, then there's a flash phase where you're able to play flash cards beginning with the defender. If you as a defending player pass the opportunity to play a flash card, then your opponent is able to play the flash card, and then you get another chance to play the flash card, and if you pass and he passes, basically the flash phase ends, and then you can assign a blocking unit. And after a blocking unit is assigned, damage is dealt, and if there's a minion facing each other, their BP gets compared, and the one who has more BP wins. If there's a tie, both of them die at the same time. Finally, after the attack, some effects can occur, but for this example, there's nothing happening on the field, so I'm just gonna pass. I could start attacking with this minion and reduce one of the minions' BP. Problem with this is that the blocker is assigned after flash effects, so keep this in mind. When you're attacking, there's really no element of surprise for the attacker. Attacker can only play flash cards before a blocker is assigned. So for the most part, you're very vulnerable when you're making attacks, whereas a defender is completely in a different position. They can almost take control of the whole battle just by having the opportunity to play the cards. They know who you're using, whereas you don't really know what the blocking unit will be. So be very careful when you're attacking, and remember that flash cards are always played before blocking is assigned. In a nutshell, the game has 4 phases, one of them being refreshing everything. The second one is deciding how to get mana. You either get 1 mana point by default, or you can choose to use a base minion, which is usually some sort of a color minion that will provide you colored mana. Then you move on to the main phase, where you can take various actions, including movement, attacking, playing spells. And then finally, once everything is over, depending on the situation, you might have cards that are in the rest state if they attacked, or if they move to the mana pool before attacking. Then those cards do not refresh unless you have special effects. And then finally, the combat itself is, in this example here, attacking, which is by selecting a target, playing flash cards, blocking the enemies who are attacking, and then resolving the combat. So now, as I explain here, look at this situation. he's attacking. I know who he's using right now. I can easily use this card called Gravity here. Gravity allows me to just reduce one of the minions' BP by 300. So the outcome will be most likely I'll be able to reduce his BP of the attackers right now, and I'll be able to use the Goblin here to use as a blocker. It's possible that because he didn't have any BP, the card completely disappeared. So that's it for today's video. There are still a lot of things to be covered on this game, and I think it has a very steep learning curve for a game that's on a mobile phone. Because if you play a game like Hearthstone, usually you only need to worry about a single thing of just playing a card from your hand, whereas in this game, you need to think about the phases, the order of attacking, when should you play a card, and very much like some of the games that are out there in the world like Magic the Gathering, you need to actually learn the rules of the game. You won't be able to play this game with ease if you don't understand every single thing you're doing. So make sure you read up on the rules. I have included a link below the video where you can check out the full rules of the game. I'm very much surprised that developers have hidden these rules so far away from the game. I actually had to take like 5 minutes looking for these rules, and I had to read them through, and it took me like 10 to 15 minutes just to fully soak in the information. And there's still a lot of nuances that are not addressed in the rules that are happening in the game. So once I figure out all the advanced rules that are not really mentioned in the rulebook, I'll make sure to make another video about it. And yeah, if you have any rules questions, any questions about the cards or effects, just leave a comment. And if you enjoyed watching this video, if you think it was helpful, press like, make sure to subscribe to us. And yeah, see you in the next video.